Conservative Party, or at least the current front bench, is refusing to confront the appalling reality of what is happening in Gaza and what the Netanyahu government is doing. I think the whole House should be able to utterly condemn the Israeli government's denial of food to hungry children. It is wrong. It's appalling. Will she condemn it? Our diplomats led that call, 27 countries joining us, to condemn what is happening and stand on the side of truth and history. What a shame.
Priti Patel. Mr. Speaker, and I'm grateful to the Foreign Secretary for advance sight of his statement. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is appalling, and we continue to see the intolerable suffering of life being lost. A sustainable end to this terrible conflict is urgently and desperately needed, and that means the release of the remaining 58 hostages from the cruel Hamas captivity that we've all witnessed for too long. It means a significant increase in aid getting into Gaza. And it means a new future for Gaza, free from the terror and misery caused by Hamas, who bear responsibility for the suffering we've seen unfolding since the 7th of October 2023. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'll take each of these three issues in turn. Firstly, on the hostages, can the Foreign Secretary explain what recent engagements he's had on trying to secure their release and return to their loved ones? Is Britain contributing to an overall strategy to free the hostages? Are we in the room for these critical discussions? Because we know the hard work that went into all of this at the beginning of the year. Secondly, on aid. I've been asking the government for clarity over the way it is using its influence to get aid in for weeks. On the 6th and the 14th of May, we questioned the Minister for the Middle East on steps being taken to unblock aid delivery. We've asked the government for details on the engagement it was having with Israel, what the response was to Israel's plans for an alternative aid delivery model, what practical solutions the UK has worked on with Israel to address their concerns about aid diversion, and no substantive answers were given. So what has the government been doing in recent weeks to facilitate the delivery of aid and find practical solutions with other countries to get aid in? Have the government just been criticising Israel, or have they been offering to work constructively to find solutions on aid delivery and securing a ceasefire? We see from the joint statement issued yesterday that the government and other international partners may not be supporting or participating in the aid delivery model proposed by Israel. So can the Foreign Secretary explain why that conclusion has been reached? If I can return to my statement, how does the non-participation help to get aid into Gaza and to stop the suffering that is being experienced by everyone? And while members shake their heads, we should be all focused on securing that. Members opposite should be ashamed of themselves, because the focus of this House should be on getting aid into Gaza. Because the UK, and I can speak as someone that has supported aid getting into Gaza and other humanitarian crises, and the member opposite might want to even intervene rather than calling me out and saying that my comments are shameful, because the UK has consistently been a leader when it comes to world aid delivery. So we should be at the forefront of finding practical solutions, supporting the delivery of aid of those in need. So has the Foreign Secretary, with the approach that he has just outlined towards Israel, done all he can to secure an increase in aid? And has the UK's influence actually fallen now when it comes to this entire aid discussion and also the dialogue we've had with Israel? Third, on the future of Gaza, the government has agreed with our position that there can be no future for Hamas. That's completely non-negotiable. So what practical steps are being taken to end their role in Gaza and dismantle the terrorist infrastructure? What coordinated international steps are being taken to stem the flow of money, weapons and support bankrolled by Iran? We're still awaiting an Iran strategy coming from the government. Can the Foreign Secretary expand upon this? We had the statement last month from the Foreign Secretary on the MOU with the Palestinian Authority. Can he give an update on what steps are being taken to improve the governance of the PA? Because the MOU posed many questions, and I don't need to go over those questions. I've raised them previously. The UK obviously needs to be involved in this process, given our historic role in, for example, the Abraham Accords. This may be our best shot when it comes to regional peace, and the Foreign Secretary must convince us that we have influence when it comes to the ceasefire and negotiating a better future in this part of the world. And can I ask the Foreign Secretary what discussions have taken place with one country that does have influence, and that is the United States administration, when it comes to peace efforts and also getting aid into Gaza? Madam Deputy Speaker, I just want to conclude by saying a few things. Strong words will do little to resolve the real challenges that are taking place and the suffering that we are seeing day in, day out. And it should be a cause, that's a matter for your government to address, it should be the cause of concern that we've reached a situation now where statements and actions, if I may say so, that have been echoed by the government today, and by that I'm referring to the Prime Minister's joint statement with France and Canada. That statement and actions of this government have now been supported by Hamas, a terrorist organisation that I prescribed as Home Secretary. They've actually put out a statement. I'm sure the Foreign Secretary has seen that. Now, the Foreign Secretary's decision to tear up trade negotiations with Israel and if I may finish, and actually stop the bilateral roadmap will not, and it's not shocking. These are important questions. These are important questions. So can I just ask them, if the Foreign Secretary if the Foreign Secretary can't answer these questions, that's fine. So then please do answer these questions, because they're important. Well, I would if members didn't keep interrupting, because it's quite obvious that the government doesn't want to respond to these important questions. I think it is important now, because there is so much human suffering. I understand the points that the Foreign Secretary has made with regards to the steps that he's taken with Israel. But how is this going to help now when it comes to wider security issues, threats from Iran, and how do we know that this will not be self-defeating in any way forward?
Foreign Secretary.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, for decades there has been a cross-party commitment to a two-state solution in the pursuit of peace. Friends of both Israel and Palestinian people across this House. It was the Thatcher government that imposed an arms embargo after Israel's invasion of Lebanon in 1982. It was David Cameron who first called Gaza a prison camp, and it was Theresa May's government that championed the UN Resolution 2334 on settlements. It was William Hague who worked with John Kerry on the push for peace and condemned the idea of moving the British Embassy to Jerusalem. Sadly today, it seems that the Conservative Party, or at least the current front bench, is refusing to confront the appalling reality of what is happening in Gaza and what the Netanyahu government is doing. The Honourable Lady seems incapable of offering any serious criticism about the egregious actions by the Netanyahu government, unlike many honourable members, on her own side. I think the whole House should be able to utterly condemn the Israeli government's denial of food to hungry children. It is wrong. It's appalling. Will she condemn it? Well, the whole House has seen. Opposing the expansion of a war that has killed thousands of children is not rewarding Hamas. Opposing the displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians is not rewarding Hamas. On this side of the House, we are crystal clear. What is happening is morally wrong, unjustifiable, and it needs to stop. And that's why we've taken the actions we have. She knows that hostage families are deeply concerned with what is happening. They're deeply concerned with their loved ones. She knows that. She knows that we oppose the blockade on aid. Does she? It wasn't clear from her statement whether she does oppose the blockade of aid to children. And she should note, our diplomats led that call, 27 countries joining us, to condemn what is happening and stand on the side of truth and history. What a shame she couldn't bring herself to do so today.